Hello YouTube, welcome to this channel again. Today we're gonna talk about strange premonition or curse about the Titanic. So let's begin.
Where's your emergency?
I just killed my mom and my sister.
Everyone knows that, but I explain anyway. The Titanic is a British transatlantic liner that sank in the North Atlantic Ocean in 1912 following a collision with an iceberg on its maiden voyage from Southampton to New York. Between 1,490 and 1,520 people died, making this event one of the largest maritime disasters in peacetime and the largest for its time. Let me tell you what Morgan Robertson told in his short novel, which is called Futility or The Wreck of the Titan. Basically, this novel is about the biggest ocean liner in the world. It contains 19 compartments, which allow it to stay afloat following any collision, which makes it unsinkable. The liner contains several canoes, but too few in relation to the number of passengers. The ship strikes an iceberg, slides on its surface, then rolls over onto its side before sinking from the stern. These two stories are similar, and even the characteristics of the ships do not differ that much. I made this table, and you can pause to see the details. Was the Titanic a cursed liner? Some stories told by the survivors and the families of the survivors suggest some strange similarities. William Edward Minahan. Dr. William Edward Minahan says 5 years before the tragedy that he will die in a maritime disaster. In January 1912, he left for Europe with his wife and sister. He puts all his affairs in order and takes out 2 insurance policies, $100,000 life insurance and $60,000 accident insurance. He will be killed on his return to America aboard the Titanic. His wife and sister will be saved. George Washington. In 1911, an officer of the liner George Washington was in Germany with all his family. He decides to have the lines read by a gypsy. The latter said to him, "You can laugh, they are still laughing. But it's on the sea that your work is located next year, that the largest boat in the world will sink, sink." The officer laughs again, and the gypsy starts to cry, pushing his hand away. "I told you too much. I see too much sadness, death, shipwreck." The number. During its construction in the Harland and Wolff shipyards, the number 401 is assigned to the Titanic. The hull has a number assigned by the manufacturer, and it was 390904. The appearance of this number causes a big problem because some thinks that these numbers were written quickly. The reflections in the mirror cause the letters of Bad Woman, No Pope, to appear. For many Catholic shipyard workers, this whole number signifies the loss of the ship. Nora Keane. While boarding the Titanic, Irish woman Nora Keane drops her prayer book. On several occasions, she will say, "We will never get to New York." Nora Keane is one of the survivors. The grandson of James Ismay. A grandson of James Ismay, Bruce's brother, said, "I once asked my grandmother why my grandfather hadn't been on the Titanic. She replied that he should have been there but that he remained at home because of very severe pneumonia." She then added that on the night of the Titanic sinking, he had suddenly come out of a coma and said, "Bruce is in trouble." Elizabeth Schutz. In her bed, a first-class passenger, Elizabeth Schutz, cannot sleep. A cold smell of death penetrates her cabin, which reminds her of the one she had encountered a few years earlier in a cave of an Ager glacier. Elizabeth Schutz will be one of the survivors. Charles Cook. In 1939, pastor Charles Cook committed suicide the day before his wedding. He had been saved from disaster when he was only 14 years old. Since then, he has always had the feeling of being pursued by misfortune, and the memory of the shipwreck resurfaced the day before his wedding. Doris Williams. In the 1960s, a Californian named Doris Williams frequently manifested an unexplained fear of the sea. This led her to consult a spiritual advisor, the Reverend Young. Young decides to hypnotize her in order to determine the cause of her phobia. Hypnosis reveals that Doris, in a previous life, was a passenger named Blackwell who went missing with the Titanic. There was indeed a first-class passenger named Stephen Wirt Blackwell who perished in the disaster. This case caused a sensation in the circus of the Titanic and the Psyche. Los Salius. In 1913, the captain of the English steamer Los Salius witnessed an unexpected appearance. Off the banks of Newfoundland, he saw the hull of a large ship, covered with algae and aquatic vegetation. Wet on its anchors, this ghost building seems, in a way, to rest on an underwater rock. What do you think about these premonitions? So this is the end of the video. I hope you liked it and tell me in the comment what you think about it. So I'll see you next week for a new video. Goodbye.